Hi friends, welcome and thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Becky. This is BDUNCKS Astrology. Wherever you're listening, watching, thank you so much for being here and allowing me to share astrology with you. Today I am going to be sharing an astrology forecast for the week of September 20th to 26th, 2020. So we start our week off on the 20th with the moon in Scorpio making a square to Venus, who's sitting in Leo right now. So this could bring up some overly sensitive energies, especially surrounding our relationships, feelings of abandonment, feelings of not feeling nurtured or cared for in the ways that we really need. When the moon is sitting in Scorpio, she reacts rather passionately, sometimes possessively. So this possessiveness could create feelings of conflict and tension within our relationships. This overly clingy energy could create more barriers and blocks than what we initially intend. And it's not our fault, we're just being driven by our emotions. But we really need to recognize that sometimes when we push too hard, we push away. We might go to great lengths and even become overly adaptive to keep that tight grip onto what it is that we want to keep holding on to. Especially with Venus sitting in Leo, we could find ourselves wanting to be wanted, wanting to be recognized, wanting to be admired, just wanting that recognition. So again, that could fuel this urgency to hold on to things. But within that, some of us, it might be helpful to take a step back and recognize if what it is that we're trying to hold on to is actually good for us anymore. Are we holding on to things that are still serving us? This is still rather a nice, soft aspect, though. Any sort of moon-Venus aspect is bound to bring about a softness in us, a tenderness in us. But with the moon sitting in Scorpio, that's why there might be this extra bit of sting to our emotions, a disconnect almost between the intent and the impact. We could also find ourselves feeling highly sensitive to any sort of criticism. So it's just something to keep an eye out for and remind yourself who you are and how strong you are and how capable you are and where you've come from. So if you are faced with any sort of criticism today, to maybe just take it with a grain of salt. Alternatively, if you're the one dishing out the criticism, that's also why there might be a bit of an extra sting in your words, and it's just something to be aware of, and maybe just catch yourself if you find yourself being a little too judgmental of others. The major and more challenging event of the day is Mercury is making a square to Pluto. So Pluto is sitting in Capricorn right now, and Mercury is sitting in Libra, the sign of relationships, the sign of justice and harmony and balance. So with this harder aspect, the square aspect, it's not always difficult, but it definitely brings about challenge and confrontation. Knowledge is power with this aspect. Find ourselves getting to the deep, dark truth of every single thing today, especially when it comes to our relationships. We won't be taking shallow, surface level answers for anything. I like to describe Pluto as a bit of a bulldozer. He really comes in and digs everything up to uncover every single truth in the matter, to reform and change and transform and grow really for the better. So secrets could come out today, whether you are learning a secret or you have a secret of your own to share. Secrets is a very prominent theme today, again, especially in our relationships, Mercury being in Libra. And this could be the type of secret where you already intuitively know. Again, Pluto is all about the ethereal, the psychic, the higher mind. So it could be something that we've already known, but it just sort of finally comes to the surface and is communicated with us today. We'll really want to be mindful of the way that we communicate today. Our words can kill, our words can be a weapon, especially with this aspect. We just really want to be aware of how we're communicating, even to ourselves. We'll also want to be conscious of the way that we communicate within our writing. So no crazy tweets today. Don't go about posting anything too crazy online. The more far out there and the more erratic the idea, whatever it is that you are presenting, the more criticism that you are going to be likely met with. At the same time, we could actually make some big breakthroughs with this transit if we're able to channel Pluto's ability to really get to the depth of the matter, the deep truth that will open up the highest potential of healing for the sake of the situation. We might be able to work through some of these more difficult conversations and situations and reveal the highest truth to heal if we are open to it. That's the key factor, I find, is you have to be open to the healing. On a more personal level, some of us might actually prefer to be a little bit more tight-lipped about some of the secrets or things, emotions that we have. This could be due to the fact that we may not be able to just find the words to accurately describe the intensity of our emotions. Alternatively, we could also maybe be shocked or stunned at the depth and the darkness of some of the thoughts that are coming up within us, and doesn't allow us to communicate these emotions and thoughts in an effective and accurate and purposeful way. This is an awesome aspect for doing research, getting to the bottom of things, playing the detective, especially with topics that are a little bit more taboo, otherworldly, conspiracy theories, murder mysteries, those types of topics that you could easily fall down a rabbit hole with. This aspect is perfect for those. There's a great potential for us to even discover things about our own psychology and really dive deep into the depths of the psyche within us. Coming into Monday, the 21st, the sun is going to be making a sextile with the moon. So with the sun sitting in Virgo and the moon still sitting in Scorpio, this is a nicer aspect. It really is going to allow us to feel connected within ourselves, connected to ourselves. Our purpose and our emotions are going to feel balanced and aligned. This is an aspect that's going to enable us to get really honest with ourselves about some of the practical things that we need to secure our emotional stability and nurture ourselves. The sun sitting in Virgo really tunes us into the more practical, get shit done side of us, and the moon in Scorpio allows us to delve into the deeper, darker sides of our emotions and our mind to really, again, tune into what it is that we really need. What are some of the things that we've been ignoring within us that we know have been crossing our boundaries and we've just been letting it slide. Alternatively, we can also take a look within ourselves and see where we've been crossing our own boundaries, where we haven't been sort of upholding our own morals and respecting ourselves in that way, really nurturing the relationship of trust within ourselves in that regard. And again, with Virgo, practicality, improvement, service, humility, tuning into all of these energies and channeling that to look at what we need to change and revise and structure within our lives to, again, create that nurturance within ourselves and care for ourselves. And with this being a sextile aspect between the sun and the moon, we'll feel really good about doing this type of work. Even if it's just expressing it and doing the work within ourselves and not sharing this with others, we'll feel really good and in tune and enabled to do this type of self-investigation. The sextile is an aspect of coaxing and an invitation almost. Things like journaling or, just spending some time with ourselves will really be helpful for us today. Mercury is still going to be making a square to Pluto, so I will just leave that there. We also have Venus making a quincunx to Jupiter, who is sitting in Capricorn, and Venus sitting in Leo. So this energy could bring about an overindulgent really good time type energy. Anytime that Venus and Jupiter get together, it's bound to bring about a good time. But because Jupiter is all about growth, expansion, and Venus is the finer things in life, it is material things, it is the things that we value and what we find worth in. So there is a tendency to overindulge, especially with the quincunx aspect. It's sort of a more difficult aspect where there's a disconnect. So we will want to be mindful and a little bit more cautious about the way that we spend today, spending our money, spending our time, spending our energy, spending our resources. We just want to be mindful because, again, with this aspect, with this energy, there is a tendency to overdo it and overindulge, especially Venus and Leo, overindulging in the self. Anytime that Venus and Jupiter get together, it's always a life of the party type vibe. With Venus especially being in Leo, we're going to be feeling overly charming, overly charismatic. We're going to be feeling super confident within ourselves. And this is a great thing. This is a great contrasting energy to everything that's going on with Mercury and Pluto right now. If you're single right now, this could bring in some really charming characters. I'll just be looking to have a really good time and sort of indulge in ourselves. It is a good time if you're single and dating to maybe just keep things a little bit more casual and enjoy it. This is actually a great time to donate to charity of some sorts. Give your time in a charitable way, or your energy, your efforts in a charitable way. Jupiter is all about the service, the gratitude, the more philosophical side of us. So if we can channel that, get into our more ethical side and channel this spiritual energy, this spiritual guidance, and give back in some way, shape, or form. On the 22nd, we have the sun moving into Libra. So we have a shift of energy here. Happy birthday to all the Libras out there. This is the season where we're going to be really focused on the other, on our relationships. Again, Libra is all about the other. It's the opposite sign of Aries, the self, the individual. So we're going to be really focused on the other during this time of year. The sun technically isn't in the happiest of positions when he's sitting in Libra because the sun is representative of the individual, of the self. So there could be a little bit of a rocky road with this season, but overall, it is a really nice time to devote ourselves to paying attention to our relationships more. This could be our romantic relationships, our friendships, our relationships with our family, our coworkers. And with Libra, it's all about restoring balance, maintaining harmony, finding justice. So looking at the relationships in our lives and noticing if any of them are out of balance in some way. If there are some relationships that maybe aren't serving us anymore or need some work and need to be tended to, balance needs to be restored within them. Where the sun falls into detriment being in Libra, and where we can all feel a little uncomfortable and uneasy, is being a little too concerned with other people and overly accommodating. Libra is, again, all about maintaining harmony and maintaining peace. So therefore, it's not necessarily the most happy to be in confrontation of any sort, although it's not necessarily scared of it. Libras do sometimes have a tendency to people please a little too much in order to maintain that peace and maintain that harmony, and ignore things, shove things under the rug, ultimately end up sacrificing their own well-being for the sake of others. We again can just take a look at where we may be overlooking certain things about people and where we can take a stand more to maintain and restore that balance that's missing. Just really taking a look and recognizing the ways that we might be being mistreated or taken advantage of in any sort of way. We also have Mercury making a square with Saturn now. So this is another really intense aspect. This could bring in some negative thinking, a tendency to tell ourselves a negative story, dealing with some sort of authority bearing over us, learning the hard way. These are sort of the themes that come along with a hard aspect between Mercury and Saturn. if we wanted to watch our words when Mercury was squaring Pluto, we really also want to watch the way that we communicate when Mercury is making a square to Saturn. It could bring a lot of defensiveness in our communication, and a lot of us will be feeling a need to have really structured, rigorous means of communication. So this might be a good day to keep more to ourselves. It is a good day to get some work done. Anything that's like hard work or maybe tedious or boring or rigorous that you usually tend to avoid. Now is the day to get that type of stuff done. With this aspect, we will have the mental energy and stamina to dedicate some time to tidying up and taking care of business, really. If you have any sort of financial matters or important contracts or anything like that to sign, it might be a wise idea to check with someone that's a professional within that industry, just to make sure that you're getting everything right and all of your T's are crossed and I's are dotted, and just some sort of counsel to double check that everything is the way that it's supposed to be. With this potential negative train of thought that we might find ourselves in, we will be really thinking before we speak today and really analyzing what we express before we communicate it. This could be out of a fear that what we have to say isn't good enough. Again, this imposter syndrome that some of us, a lot of us, all of us deal with, I think, on some level. But yeah, we just may be hesitant because we may feel that we're not able to express ourselves accurately or quote unquote good enough, or that no one in the room will want to hear what we have to say, that we might get drowned out in a crowd somehow. Communication barriers are going to be the theme of the day with this energy. We might find ourselves less tolerant of the type of conversation that's just sort of, tends to ramble on. People that maybe tend to ramble on, we might not have the patience for today. Alternatively, if we're the ones that maybe have a tendency to just go on and on and on, we might feel a little sensitive to do that right now. We might actually feel a little self-conscious around that. We're just going to do everything that we can today to avoid making a fool of ourselves with this self-conscious sort of energy today, this sort of feeling that we're being tested in a way with Saturn, the authority. With this energy though, I think the positive side of it is we can use this inner authority, this inner discipline that Saturn in Capricorn allows us, and sort of use these feelings of being tested as opportunities for growth, opportunities to not shy away from a challenge when we usually normally would. Some things that we can reflect on today, and some potential journal prompts even, are: where have I given away my own authority because I don't feel like I'm good enough, or I'm smart enough, or I don't know enough? Where do I trust the opinion of others a little too much, and where have I given away my own inner authority in that regard? What have I been avoiding learning or conquering or overcoming for fear of not being able to do it, especially learned fears from the past? What are these things that I've been avoiding because I maybe feel like I'm not smart enough or not competent enough to do them? Not only do we still have Venus making a quincunx to Jupiter, but now on this day, Venus is going to be making a quincunx to Neptune, who's sitting in Pisces as well. So this is going to bring in some big time romantic, dreamy, fairy tale vibes. This can be a really, really nice aspect if we allow it to be. We also do want to be a little wary that this can allow some of us to over idealize love a little too much and romanticism a little too much. There is the potential for us to turn a blind eye to some things. Neptune does bring in some sense of illusion. So these are just some things that we want to watch out for with this aspect. If you're in a relationship right now, this is a great time to rekindle the flame, especially if you find that that spark has sort of dulled out a little bit over the last little while. This is the perfect opportunity to re-spark that and reignite that. Again, we could be falling trap to this idealized fairy tale story and expect that too much out of our relationship, and sometimes get bored and not want to deal with the sort of mundane, more normal things in our relationship. And so that could lead us to unfortunately try to seek that somewhere else outside of the relationship, or could cause some of us to just completely withdraw and use that time to heal and recoup. They say love is blind, and this is definitely representative in this aspect. If you're single, you'd want to, again, be a little bit wary of just over idealizing somebody, putting them up on a pedestal in any way, and just reminding yourself of your worth, of your value, and what you deserve, and not overlook any sort of imperfections, any sort of red flags that your instincts are telling you and trying to warn you about. We just have to remember that not every single relationship is perfect. Whether you're in a relationship or you're single and looking, that not everything is going to be perfect, and not everything is going to fit our ideal standards. And that in order to create a working, worth it relationship, it does take effort and time. You know, you need to get dirt on your knees in order to make a nice garden, and you're gonna need to fuck up sometimes and mess up sometimes and have some vegetables die on you before you figure out how to properly care for them. Moving into the 23rd, the moon is going to be sitting in Sagittarius and making a sextile with Mercury sitting in Libra. So this is going to bring in some really easygoing, light, agreeable, positive, sociable energy. It's going to really help with our ability to communicate, especially within our relationships. Again, Mercury and Libra, which we could all really use now at this point with some of the harder aspects that Mercury has been dealing with and will continue to deal with, unfortunately, later on in the week. It's going to be a time where we're feeling not so much intellectual, but more so led by our feelings. So again, this is going to really help our ability to communicate within our relationships and with other people. This is, again, just a time for plain out socializing and having a nice light time, socializing as much as you can with the restrictions that we're all dealing with right now, but we'll all just be more apt to more lighter conversations, not too deep. At the same time, if someone approaches us with a problem of theirs, we will be more than willing to lend an open ear and a shoulder to cry on for that person. We'll be more in tune with our emotional side, our intuitive side. We'll be able to intuitively feel and sympathize with that person and understand what they're going through. We'll be able to really put ourselves in their shoes and be there for them, console them, and nurture them in their time of need. This is also a great energy for reminiscing, you know, talking about old stories, good times with friends, looking at some old family photos, looking through some old keepsakes, anything like that that's sort of reminiscent of the past. And again, that's just still light and airy and fun and pleasurable. The moon in Sagittarius is also going to be making a trine to Mars, who's retrograde and sitting in his home sign of Aries right now. So this could bring about a lot of emotional action, a ferocious need to defend and protect. So again, if we're having someone that's coming to us with their emotional problems, we'll feel all the more ready to step up and defend them and protect them and take the actions to do what needs to be done to make things right again. We will be more sensitive to any sort of conflict today. So there might be a little bit more touchiness and a tendency to go overboard with our emotions. We want to be a little bit more watchful for that today. Alternatively, some of us could find it difficult to express our emotions. There's some sort of wanting to avoid any conflict, so we tend to express our anger in more passive-aggressive, indirect ways, chirpy comments, irritability, especially with the moon sitting in Sagittarius. It's a mutable sign, so we could see some more of those laid back but still irritated feelings that arise within us, these feelings of tension, of fieriness that people will be able to pick up on. But with Mars sitting in his home sign of Aries, he does have a lot of rulership within this aspect. So we could just really find ourselves being triggery, firing from the hip with our comments and not being able to hold back our feelings in the most responsible way. The way that we can navigate this is getting really familiar with what our boundaries are and respecting them and enforcing them and establishing them. Any sort of boundary that we say we have, if we don't ever back up, is just a suggestion for someone. So we need to stand firm in what we know we're worth and what's right to us, and see what boundaries we need to protect and reestablish, so that we can foster these more meaningful connections within our lives in a healthy, respectful way. We're also still dealing with Mercury squaring Saturn on this day. So again, just reinforcing these boundaries, these restrictions, this foundation, this sense of regulation within our lives to emotionally protect ourselves and our worth. On the 23rd, we're going to have the moon making a trine with Uranus sitting in Taurus. The moon is going to be sitting in Capricorn. So this energy is bound to bring about some sort of big emotional shakeup, some really massive change to the foundational structures of our lives. We're going to be feeling a surge of emotional independence, readiness to make these sort of structural changes. And we'll be seeking this sense of emotional freedom, and we're going to feel super driven to invite exciting changes into our domestic lives. Because our emotions are prone to changing like the direction of the wind with this energy, we are going to really need that sense of freedom and that sense of space to allow our emotions to explore and go about wherever they want. Some of us might be finding that we're bored of our regular day-to-day routines right now. So again, this is a great opportunity to make some of those changes. We're going to feel ready and enabled and emotionally wanting to make these changes to the structural foundation of our lives. Especially with Uranus and Taurus, it's all about concerning about what we value, what we find worth in, what we're ready to devote time and energy into. And again, with the moon in Capricorn, it's restructuring, perfect opportunity to shake things up in our lives. We also have Mercury making an opposition to Mars retrograde in Aries. So this is a rather tense aspect. Mercury has been going through a lot this week. A lot to do with our communication, a lot of communication barriers and just conflict and tension. That's sort of the theme of the week. And with this aspect, with this opposition in particular, it's all about clear, concise, direct communication. We're going to be saying, cut the crap, cut the bullshit, get straight to the point. We want everyone to be honest and clear and concise with us with this aspect. If there are any important conversations that you need to have today that require tact and a grounded, more gentle approach, today is not the day for that. Today is going to be more about assertion, about competitiveness, about incisiveness, about defending ourselves in a way. We are going to want to take particular care of our nervous system today. Mars does have a lot to do with the physical body, and Mercury is the intellect. So this could really be a big impact on our nervous system that could impact our ability to communicate and really just causes buildup of nervous energy that can manifest in nervous tics, nail biting, smoking, over smoking, any sort of those like nervous anxiety triggers could be prominent today. So we'll want to be really gentle with ourselves today. Practice some self-care, any sort of self-care that you find serves you best. Just really trying to avoid a nervous breakdown. We'll want to find some sort of outlet to get this energy out of us. So again, with Mercury, we can take advantage of the sort of communicative side of it. So journaling is a really good thing to do today. Any sort of intense emotions, just getting it out onto paper really does help so much more than one realizes. Another benefit of this transit is if you're the type of person that normally does struggle with asserting yourself and defending yourself, this is going to give you that courage, that energy, that drive to stand up for yourself and defend yourself in the ways that you need to, and say some of the things that you've been holding back for quite some time. Again, you want to be tactful and mindful of the way that you communicate this, but I find that if you are naturally someone that does have problems with this, that it gives you just enough energy to find that right balance and get your point across in a way that is effective and meaningful and makes you feel like you're respecting yourself. Just as our words carry vibrational energy, so do our thoughts. And when we harbor feelings of emotional resentment and anger and hate, people can feel that radiates off of us. So we definitely want to make sure that we're not harboring some of these more negative emotions, because they do end up impacting us, and they could end up impacting us physically as well. Again, Mars, the physical body. So just being mindful of these sorts of things. Some journal prompts that we can use for today and some sort of self-reflections is, how have I been harboring any sort of anger and resentment? And what are some things that I can do to honor my boundaries more and enforce my boundaries more, so that I avoid any sort of opportunity for me to start harboring resentment for somebody? Coming into Friday the 25th, the moon meets up with Pluto sitting in Capricorn. So emotional boundaries are a must today. We're going to be feeling driven to reinforce these boundaries that I've been talking so much about. We're going to feel an intense desire to create space in our home, in our domestic life, in our emotional life, create freedom, create structure, create any sort of means to protect ourselves from feeling invaded or imposed upon in any sort of way. This aspect is a wonderful opportunity for us to really dive deep into our emotions, the dark, deep corners of our emotions today. On the other hand, some of us could be wanting to avoid that completely and almost kill or put to death these more negative, darker emotions that we don't want to feel, almost put them away to bed and sort of ignore them. And they will eventually just resurface again. That's generally what happens. But these feelings of jealousy or anger or rage or envy or betrayal or pain, these are some of the things that we can definitely dive deep into today, if we feel the drive to, which, again, this energy offers us a great opportunity to do that. We just need to take that initiative. Pluto has a lot to do with the shadow self, the shadow side of us, and doing any sort of shadow work is never easy. It does require a certain amount of desire to do that work, and a readiness to face some of the more difficult emotions that might come up. Again, some of these emotions we could be harboring from years ago. We might not even be aware that we're still holding on to them. So they definitely could cause us to be triggered in a lot of ways. And these sort of emotions could be coming to us in uninvited ways too, unexpected ways, through our dreams, through our daydreams. We could just be imagining it, and all of a sudden it just throws us off and prevents us from doing our day-to-day stuff. So it's not easy, but this is definitely something that we might be facing today. Again, if we're ready and willing to do this work, some of the things that we could be reflecting upon are asking ourselves and journaling these things, like, what are some buried, unexpressed emotions that I've been harboring onto that are preventing me from healing? What are some of the old narratives that I've been holding on to that are not allowing me to grow and progress in the way that I want to? We'll just want to take extra care to not allow these emotions to get the better of us. While our intuition about it might be spot on, the emotions surrounding it could be highly triggering and end up running the show and running our reactions. So just practicing some self-care today, meditating, doing some yoga, spending some time outside, any sort of self-care that serves you best. As I said before, just to, again, take care of these difficult emotions that we might be navigating. And finishing up the week on the 26th, the major event of the day today is Mars is making a square to Saturn. This is not a fun aspect. It's gonna feel really hard to find any sort of win today. We might be feeling this feeling of being tested, especially by authoritative figures. It's gonna be a prominent theme today. People testing our free will, anything that sort of tests our strength and our courage and determination might be presented to us today. Alternatively, we could be the ones seeking these types of experiences out. You know, if we have more of a fiery nature to us, we could be actively seeking these types of things out, seeing them as challenges and opportunities to learn and grow and progress. There is a really great opportunity here, though, to push past anything that we feel may be impeding on our free will right now. It's going to be a really subjective type of integration depending on the way that this aspect is aspecting your personal chart, but it could have a lot to do with integrating polarities, integrating things that don't seemingly go together normally. So integrating fear with courage, instinct with regulation, assertion with control, impulse with discipline, free will with structure. These opposites that don't seem to necessarily go together yet complement each other in intricate ways. Our stamina will be tested, our determination will be tested. We'll just feel like we're being tested, but we will be able to push past this and tuning into the things that we know we intuitively need to be doing right now. We will be able to navigate our way through this more challenging aspect. That's it for this week, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. If you'd like to schedule a one-on-one reading with me, you can head on over to any of my social profiles. The links are all there. Thank you so much. If you enjoyed this, if you're watching on YouTube, I would really appreciate if you can like, subscribe, comment if you have any questions. If you're listening to this on the podcast, thank you so much. I'm so excited to finally have a podcast, and I will catch you all next time. Bye, guys.